and welcome on board. We'll be live throughout the afternoon now, both in sound and vision, and it's if anything to go by the work that was done out there yesterday, Andrew. It was a very slick race meeting. We had one or two incidents which caused a few red flags and a couple of stoppages, but the stoppages weren't ever that long. There was great work by our marshals and our officials.
Absolutely, we had the odd red flag, didn't we? Had a couple of quite sizable shunts.
Yeah.
Nobody hurt, but a few bruises. But everything ran absolutely to time, and let's hope it'll all be the same today as we look at the grid lining up for our first race of the day, which is going to be the two different types of Formula 3 car from the two
Formula
periods.
Junior.
Formula Junior, sorry.
They were very similar though, Andrew.
Oh, some of them have the same chassis, actually.
Yeah, and so these chassis had quite a long life then, because the same chassis went through the 60s to the late 60s with Formula 3 engines. And when these this formula that we're about to see started to evolve into the kind of single-seater series that we saw highlighted in the Rush movie, where Nicky Lauda and James Hunt first met in those Formula 3 Screamers, the 1000cc's.
Yeah, that was before this. So, for instance, in this race, it's a Lotus 18, a Lotus 20, a Lotus 22, but there isn't a Lotus 27. They're quite rare. But that was 4 years, and Chapman did something almost every year, but some of the differences weren't that much. But it was the big thing then, Joe, was the racing car show. They really took a lot of orders at the racing car show. And Lotus Components, who sold the cars, had a lot of cars.
We're going to have a look at our grid rundown now, Andrew, and this is how it will start. Richard Bradley with a fine win in the 61 to 63 class yesterday. He's on the pole position, and you can see there a very, very quick lap time, 1:17.023 from Richard Wilson on a 1 minute 20.803. Adrian Russell is third, another in the 120s. That bodes well. We've got three cars there on the 1 minute 20.8. Fifth place is Ray Malik, distinctive U2 chassis. That Ray is campaigning. It's a front engine car.
Yep.
Mark Woodhouse will be on sixth. Andrew Beaumont, look out for the distinctive Ronnie Peterson replica helmet. And in eighth spot on the grid is John Fider. Tim Child will start ninth. Alex Morton will be the last of the cars on the fifth row, and then the sixth row will consist of number 11, Nick Carlton-Smith, and Andrew Turvey in 12th. 13th sees Martin Albert with Robert Longdon alongside, and then 15th and 16th, Andrew Hayden and Peter Anstis. 17th, Jonathan Fider and James Hicks, and then in 19th and 20th spot, rounding off the top 10, the top 10 rows of the grid, Crispian Besley and Nick Taylor. 21st is Trevor Griffiths, 22nd Robert Goodwin, 23rd is Simon Sid Fraser, and then 24th Graham Barron. Anna Wilson will start 25th, Richard Ferris 26th, 27th is Justin Fleming, and Peter Fennikel is in 28th spot.
And Joe, if I can just add, I've just been handed a piece of paper. Obviously, we've got the front engine and the rear engine classes today. They ran separately yesterday. There will be a special prize for the best Formula Junior front engine car. It's going to be the John Goddard Watts Trophy, and the big favourite for that, of course, is Ray Malik, who dominated that front engine race yesterday, and indeed is starting on the third row of the grid. It just shows how quick that car is.
That car really is. 32 car grid then, with Bob Beryl, Jeremy Knight, Duncan Rabagliati and David Drew rounding off the 32 car grid. I tell you what, Formula Junior in historic racing, and certainly here at the Donington Historic Festival, looks in very healthy shapes. There's some beautiful cars that we're going to see racing.
And some great histories as well, and driven by some very famous drivers. And I was just talking to a guy who's got a Cooper. It's the red one that just went through the picture, actually. That was one of the first cars that Ken Tyrrell ran in the days before Ken Tyrrell had Jackie Stewart racing for him.
So where Ken Tyrrell cut his teeth?
Yes, absolutely.
On the pole position then, Richard Bradley. He's certainly the favourite. We spoke to Richard in the paddock this morning, didn't we? And he's on good form.
Full-time pro driver, of course, races in the European Le Mans Series and LMP2, but he prefers driving these, he told us.
He said this is the best car he drives.
Yeah.
And he drives quite an eclectic mix. I mean, from everything from a 2007 Pescarolo, which I've seen him race in America, to
an Aston Martin from pre-war sports car that his dad is racing today. So there was a crash at the start of the rear engine Formula Junior race yesterday that took out Sam Wilson, who's always one of the front runners, and the chassis damaged, I understand, so that's not running, which is a shame. So Richard Bradley won't have quite so much competition, but we're almost ready to see Marshall's running to the back there, just checking a couple of things. We've got a car that maybe's lost its engine, I'm not sure. I know someone lost a clutch on the line yesterday. They're ready to push the buttons. So a very green car is an Australian car called an Osper. There's Duncan Bagliati, the orange Alexis. Duncan's the guy that's been absolute mastermind of this whole Formula Junior.
He's behind the organisation inside of this series.
He has really lifted Formula Junior over the last 20 years, really. And his daughter Sarah now runs it all. Two lovely Brabhams at the front in the traditional works colours with the green and the gold.
And from 2015 this series has been supported by Silverline Tools, so a big thank you to them as well. We are about to go racing, though Richard Bradley is certainly the firm favourite with regards to his lap time. The lights go out and this full car of 32 Formula Juniors, full grid of 32 Formula Juniors gets off, and as expected Richard Bradley disappears off into turn 1 first, into Redgate. What a sight that is. Beautiful scenes here, beautiful sunshine, almost a perfect day track weather-wise, and we expect the weather to continue without any kind of rain forecast, so a beautiful sunny day to go racing. And what a sight that is. That for me is the iconic view of Donington Park, Andrew, through those sweeps of the Craner curves.
Yeah, right down to the old hairpin. I never understood because it isn't really a hairpin.
It's very fast right-hander, actually. Yeah. 90-degree right-hander.
Just noticed somebody was starting from the pit lane, but there is Richard Bradley, who has homes in both China and where else did he tell us? Singapore, was it? Bangkok, Thailand, yeah.
Yeah, he's been stuck here in England. His girlfriend's over in Bangkok looking after things. He hasn't seen her since January, so I suppose this is one way to keep his mind occupied and continue and go racing at the front of this field. The Brabham BT2 I should say, BT standing for Brabham Toranak, and there's, as expected, first moves beginning on the run down to the chicane.
Yeah, and we saw Malak right up there leading the front engine class. In fact, there's a couple of Malaks in this, I think. And all the cars streaming through with Richard Bradley pulling out 3.2 seconds on that very first lap over the similar car of Richard Wilson.
Yeah, Richard Wilson in the BT6 in second place. Into the pits already has come the number 36, and that looks like it's not going to be a good day for Robert Goodwin, who brings that car in. That looked like a bit of damage on the right-hand side of the cockpit
not
there.
Sure what happened to him.
First lap through, though, Bradley leads, Wilson second, Russell in third. Then we've got Woodhouse in fourth. Ray Malak came through in fifth, and Andrew Beaumont looking very racy indeed. And there's Andrew Beaumont in the 61, the distinctive Ronnie Peterson replica helmet there. And just look at how racy Ray Malak is. Beaumont's gotten by Ray Malak on that lap, and it looks like he's disappearing up the road. Couldn't quite see who that was in front of Ray Malak, but that very distinctive U2 created and built and fabricated by the Malak family.
Yeah, by his father, Major Arthur Malak, and he was a pretty good racing driver in his time as well, and U2 can own a racing car.
That's the slogan, was it? So he had marketing in mind already.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Rose to Northampton.
Car 72 there through the chicane. That's a Brabham BT2 of Chilcutt, who comes through in.
Oh, we've got one pulling off to the right there. Looks like a Cooper.
Harmlessly pulling off to
he's well out of the way. Yeah, and he's right by the marshal's post as well, which is good. But look at Richard Bradley, got a bit of attitude onto the car as he's really wringing the neck of this machine that he bought from America. And I've spent a lot of time testing it and sorting it out, and he's really got it.
I found that story very interesting. They bought the car from America, it landed at Heathrow, they wheeled it off the airplane onto a trailer and took it straight to Goodwood and raced it.
Yeah, and it was horrible.
It was horrible, he said. And many miles of tuning and fine tuning and getting that car put right has that car running very, very well indeed. 16 minutes remaining then. Already almost 4 minutes in the bag, and Richard Bradley turning there, just keeping that car sliding and moving underneath him, but looking very, very smooth there, using all of the track there on the exit of the chicane, and he really has left the rest of this field behind. 1 minute 17.2 is the time there, and he takes fastest lap of this race. In second place is the number 128 of Richard Wilson. That's another Brabham, this time the BT6. Number 122 is Adrian Russell. He's in third spot in the Lotus 22. Then we've got another Lotus, this time a Lotus 20 with the number 84 Woodhouse. Andrew Beaumont is fifth, and Ray Mallock is now looking like, I'm not sure who that car is in front of Ray Mallock there, because I'm showing Ray Mallock in sixth, and I think Ray Mallock has maybe lost a position there. Right on Ray Mallock's tail though is the number 70, and that is the James Murray, and it's the Lola Mark 5.
Yeah, well, Lola, a big competitor of Brabham and Lotus.
Again, the manufacturers that we kind of see as kind of the major manufacturers that they become.
Oh, good battle though between these two. Look at this, completely different concepts. But the 72 car just ahead of Ray Mallock, boss of the RML organisation, of course, done a lot of work with Nissan and other major motor manufacturers. And Ray, with his traditional helmet, was very successful in sports car racing in the C2 Championship all those years ago, and his company running that project, sponsored by Swiftair at one time, a post office brand.
Oh, yes.
And I had to accompany Postman Pat on the grid at Brands Hatch once.
The Postman Pat.
The Postman Pat.
Did he have his cat with him?
Jess was not there. Cat's not allowed in race meetings.
Of course not. No.
Andrew Beaumont, a very big Lotus enthusiast, running there in fifth place in the Lotus 22, run by Classic Team Lotus, which is Colin Chapman's son Clive's team, who still work from the same workshops, or they certainly did until recently.
Here's a challenge from the number 83 for 10th spot, and that is the
other U2, isn't it?
It is. It's it's Jonathan Fider all the way down from Dundee. The other U2 Mark 3 it has in the programme, so a slightly different nose front end of that car, so that's where they kind of refined the airflow across that squared off body. You'll see the distinct differences with the Ray Mallock car.
Yeah, it's a slightly later chassis. I mean, they still make Mallocks.
Of course they do.
Richard Mallock, Ray's brother, that's a separate business from RML. But this Lotus 22s, there's several in this race. Well, it's a great battle, isn't there? Look at that.
I think that's a back marker, Andrew, the 31. I think we're already in the realms of back markers now with 13 minutes remaining.
Anybody who's seen the film Grand Prix with James Garner in it, most of those Grand Prix cars were bought from the Jim Russell Racing Driver School and had sort of plastic Formula 1 bodies, but they were basically Lotus 22s. And one of them was in this race today is the car that Garner actually drove in the film.
In the movie, in the filming of the movie Grand Prix.
Yep.
What number is it?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
It's a Scottish chap. It'll come to me in a second.
Well, we've got now under 13 minutes, and the number 60 there. That's it.
That's it. That's Sid Fraser. Yeah.
Well done. Well done to our TV producer there. He knew telepathic messages being sent next door.
That's a good TV producer for you, isn't it?
Yeah. And he was telling us they've painted that number 60 to be exactly like, that's the third car in shot, just coming into the chicane now. There's the 65, and the car behind them with the red nose. Yeah, that's the paint job they gave it. They've restored it.
Well, it had a BRM.
It's a Lotus.
Yeah, but
so
it's got the Lotus 22 body on, but in the film, of course, it was a BRM. And it had the funny exhaust at the back. But it's number 60 because he started racing at 60 years old. Did Sid?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's down in 23rd. This is a great battle that's broken out, and it's down the order. It's 21st, 22nd, and 23rd that we're watching here, and a change for place there as the number 60 I think has gotten ahead as they went through Redgate.
And Joe Bradley, Richard Bradley, no relation, is now 20 seconds down the road in front of Wilson.
Yeah, and another fastest lap there. Another fastest lap, and there he is, right in amongst that battle for 20th. Richard Bradley going through, and he did mention that we said to him, Richard, try and make this a little bit entertaining for us. You're 3 seconds on the pole, and he says, it's going to be entertaining when I come through the traffic, and he's right, isn't he? There he was. Right. But he's gone already.
Yeah, just to remind people, Richard Bradley is a full pro driver, races in the European Le Mans series, but at Le Mans well, 6 years ago now, wasn't it? He won the LMP2 class in that Hong Kong-owned car, number KCMG, with Matt Howson, who now actually runs the KCMG team.
He runs as a kind of team manager.
Yeah, I think they're more in touring cars these days, aren't they?
GTs, aren't they? Yeah. We're getting towards half distance, Andrew. 20 minutes of this race, and we were looking at that battle for 20th spot there, which seems to have gone the way of we've lost I've lost on the timing screen. I've lost the car that we were following. Oh, there he is. 21st place is the number 60, and that is the car that we were mentioned. He showed us earlier on. It's the Simon Sid Fraser car, of course. He showed us earlier on that the dashboard has been actually autographed by James Garner back in the day. And it's still there. It still bears that autograph. There's Richard Bradley though. He's at McLean's and he's coming up to half distance now. He's got a gap of 21 seconds to the second place car, and that has just gone into third place ahead of Wilson. That's the number 122 of Adrian Russell to Lotus 22.
I'll tell you somebody's going very well in the front engine car, and that's Alex Morton in the Condor, car number 8. He must be lying then in second place in the front engine category.
Yeah, of course, we've got two Formula Junior grids being amalgamated here. Richard Bradley has gone under 17 seconds. Sorry, under 1 minute 17, I should say. He's just done at 1 minute 16.9.
Because he had a great drive yesterday in the front engine class from Chris Drake in that aluminium-bodied Terrier, if you remember, but he isn't racing today.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, the Terrier was another car, A lot of these Formula Juniors, though, I would imagine when they first appeared and the idea, as you mentioned, Andrew, coming from Italy, there was some home-built specials.
Oh, it was
part of the formula, were all part of the scene.
Yeah, there was quite a few cars built in the garage next to the house, that's for sure. But there were proper manufacturers as well. But the Terrier, which we mentioned, which you aren't seeing, was designed by a guy called Len Terry, who went on to work for Lotus and designed the Indy 500 winning Lotus.
Right.
A guy with a great career.
So we'll just have a look at the field as they come through to...
There's the car I was mentioning. There's the 8 car. Well done,
well done,
Mr. TV producer, picking that up. He's got running a little onboard camera and a nice little gaggle there for what's down in
15th.
Yeah, 15th.
And that's the number 8, isn't it, of Alex Morton. I'm trying to find that. It's called a Condor, Andrew.
Yes, it is. And
so again, that
Condor is a Guildford based company, Condor.
Design concept like the late 50s, what would have been late 50s Grand Prix cars, like the Maserati 250F and the like. That's a, kind of squint in a couple.
Yeah, more like a Lotus 16 really, isn't it? But yeah, with the high tail at the back,
yes,
or maybe even a barrel.
And again, the design of that rear end of that car was to clean the air. It was all about, in those days, back in the 60s, before we discovered downforce and aerodynamics, it was all about getting through the air as slippery as possible, and the shaping of the rear of that car to a point, it's almost a conical kind of rear end, is to clean that airflow and have the air flow across the car and off the back of it without causing too much drag. Here's a battle going into the chicane though, and it's consisting of the number 83 feeder, who's challenging Turvey in the Lola Mark 5 ahead of him. That's the number 83.
And Bradley is now 30 seconds, the best part of 30 seconds down the road from the rest of them.
Battle for second, though, I see.
Yep.
Number 122, the Lotus 22 of Russell, has got the number 128 of Wilson right with him. It's a Brabham BT6, was holding on to second place, just been kicked up, I should say, at Coppice. Couldn't see any car in the gravel there, though, so maybe just a car having a trip across the gravel there.
Yeah, that car is ex-Silvio Mosa, who was a sort of independent Swiss Formula 1 racer for a while. And car was raced in Argentine Temporada series, I think 1964 or something like that. I was chatting to the owner earlier, and he's very pleased with the car, of course. And that's the car we're watching there. And I asked him, why has it got Montenegro on the side of it? And Montenegro wasn't a country then. And he didn't know the answer. And we think it must have been some sort of sponsor. Maybe, Montenegro was an area, I suppose, of Yugoslavia then.
Yes, it did start out as a country.
But why it would sponsor a Swiss guy, I don't know.
Maybe it was a brand name, did he not know?
No, he didn't know.
But that car is as it ran in period with that.
Oh, absolutely,
with that
yeah.
style,
Absolutely,
with
yeah.
And of course, in those days, commercial sponsorship, defining the colour of cars and liveries wasn't a thing, was it?
No, it wasn't a thing at all.
National colours on race cars.
Oh, yeah, well, that's absolutely right.
British Racing green.
British Racing green.
France was blue, Italy red.
Yeah, Belgium was yellow.
USA was dark blue, am I right?
Yeah, well, they changed white with blue stripes later. I think it had been red very originally.
And was Germany white?
Germany was white stroke silver. Which meant
is it true that they took the paint off those to save weight or something?
True.
That's why they ran in aluminium.
Absolutely.
Brushed aluminium or polished aluminium.
Orange, I don't know why Duncan's car is orange. I think Lexus were always orange, but it's actually the Dutch racing colours.
Yes.
Lexus came from Birmingham, so I don't think there's that many Dutch people in Birmingham. But
Andrew, we're about 5 minutes away from the finish of this race, and you're going to head down now to the podium and hopefully grab a chat with
Richard Bradley, I should think.
Probably Richard Bradley. I hope you haven't hexed him there.
Yeah.
But, probably Richard Bradley at this rate. He's got a 32-second lead, and we're now under 5 minutes remaining. In second place is Richard Wilson in his Brabham BT6. Just behind him, though, not much in it at all. Got out to about 1.5 seconds now. Is the number 122 of Adrian Russell, and then behind Adrian, about 3.6 seconds behind Adrian, is the number 84 of Mark Woodhouse, and Mark's car is a Lotus 2022, so a developed Lotus 20 is that. Ray Malek is in the U2 in 5th spot, a further 20 seconds behind, and then car 70 is the blue coloured Brabham BT6 of John Fider. And John is in 6th spot. He's got a lead of about, or I should say a gap of about 4.5 seconds. Is that to, no he hasn't, he's only got 5/10, so half a second. So that battle for 6th and 7th closing up a little bit with the number 72, the turquoise blue Brabham of Chris Chilcott. And behind Chris Chilcott in 8th, we've got the first of the Kiefts. That's the Formula Junior manufacturer. That one is the number 39 of that's the number 39, silver coloured Keith from Stowmarket. It's Nick Carlton-Smith. Rounding off the top 10 will be the Lola Mark 5A car 57 of Turvey, and the other Malek U2, this time the Mark 3, the more sort of smoothed edged Malek U2. That is the number 83 Jonathan Fider. So we're getting towards that penultimate lap with 3 minutes on the board. There's the number 83 there. I'm about to be joined by my colleague Alistair Douglas, who covered the qualifying session this morning, so we'll be getting a little bit of chat about how qualifying went for our coming races. This of course this grid was formed for our Formula Juniors from the 2 races we had yesterday, and the 2 qualifying sessions we had yesterday defined the grid, and it's been all about that Brabham BT2 of Richard Bradley, who has kind of dominated this race as we thought he would. 1:16.9 being the fastest lap of the race so far. He's got a 37-second lead behind him, though. A very competitive situation beginning to develop. And the number 128 is the car that is currently in second place. And that is the Wilson Brabham BT6 from Russell in the Lotus 22. There's the number 70, and that's Fider in the Brabham BT6, currently in 7th place, and he was right on the tail of the number 72, just ahead of him, the turquoise blue Brabham of Chris Chilcott, but he's dropped back 3 seconds. Chilcott's right on the tail of Ray Malek in the U2. That's a battle for 5th, 6th and 7th. And there is the number 32 of Ray Malek, just coming through the old hairpin there. And it's, the number 72 has gotten ahead of Ray Malik there into Redgate and down through the sweeps of the Craners. So that's a change for position from Chris Chilcott, who's now managed to get by Ray Malik and up into 5th. So Chilcott now in 5th, Malik in 6th. There is Richard Bradley, our leader, still coming through the field. He's lapped up to 7th spot now. That's the number 70 car of John Fider, he's just gone by. And we pick up our leader there, just going through the chicane and out onto the start finish. So we should get one more lap. He crosses the line now. There's Richard Bradley crossing the line now with 23 seconds on the clock, as into the gravel has gone the number 90. Now the number 90 was in 12th spot. It's the Lotus 22 of Andrew Hayden, who has gone off. I think that was Coppice. Yep. As we get to the checkered flag then, next time by for Richard Bradley, who was driven in some style. We had a feeling he was going to dominate this Formula Junior race by dint of the kind of lap time he's capable of, and he was 3 seconds quicker than 3 seconds on the pole position for the start of this race. Into Coppice Corner for the final time then. It's the Brabham BT2 of Richard Bradley. We heard the story earlier of the Bradley family taking possession of this car, bought the car from America, and we've got another car off, and that's come into contact with the car already beached. Now that's a bit odd. I'm going to bring my colleague Alistair Douglas in. Welcome, Alistair, to the live stream. I know you enjoyed qualifying this morning. I know you've been keeping an eye on this race, and there's Richard Bradley taking the checkered flag, but 2 cars off into the gravel like that is quite a rare scene in historic racing, and especially when we've had a car damaged from a car going off. That would have been under yellows. That was a bit of a shame.
Very unusual in motor racing generally, because yellow flags denote that there is an incident, and drivers, actually the regulations say, should be prepared to stop.
That's right. That does say that, doesn't it?
Yeah. But we do see modern racing yellow flags sometimes being semi-ignored, but in historic racing that doesn't happen. So whether there's been an incident there with 2 cars going off for the same reason, could be something on the track we haven't seen. That's very unfortunate, and as you've already said, very unusual.
It really is. Hopefully not too badly damaged for those owners. Just to confirm then, the running order at the flag, with Richard Bradley just acknowledging the checkered flag, giving a wave to our marshals out there on their posts. Richard Bradley won by that huge, that's quite uncommon as well to win these races by such a margin, but that's a very well prepared Brabham BT2 that Richard is driving there, and a 46 second gap at the flag from Richard Wilson in a Brabham BT6. And then in 3rd spot we had Adrian Russell, and Adrian in the Lotus 22. Richard Bradley just acknowledging the crowd, the marshals I should say. Spectators not allowed here at Donington Park, which hopefully our live stream will make up some kind of consolation. So if you can't come to us, we'll bring the Donington Historic Festival to you. The rest of the field coming through then, and the cars will make their way to the collecting area of Parc Fermé and to our podium, where Andrew Marriott has shuffled down to, and Andrew will be getting a chat to our winning drivers as they come onto that pit lane now. We're going to have a look at the results in a moment, just waiting for those results to be confirmed, of course. Everything we talk about is provisional until we finally call it. Pretty much all of our runners through and have passed the checkered flag and are making their way back around and into Parc Fermé. So Richard Bradley wins. huge margin of 46 seconds. Richard Wilson it was in the Brabham BT6 second. Adrian Russell it was that came through in third in the Lotus 22. Another Lotus, this time a 2022 from Mark Woodhouse in fourth. Chris Chilcott finally made that fifth place stick ahead of Ray Mallock in sixth. And Jonathan Fider was in his Mallock U2 Mark III, so Mallock's there in 6th and 7th. The first of the Keats Formula Juniors for Nick Carlton-Smith in 8th. Andrew Turvey was 9th in the Lola Mark V, and rounding off the top 10 was Martin Albert in the Lotus 20. Peter Anstis in the Lotus was 11th, Alex Morton in the Condor was 12th, James Hicks in the Caravelle was 13th, 14th is Robin Longdon in the Lola Mark V, Crispian Besley in the Cooper T56 was 15th, the Elva 100 of Nick Taylor was 16th, Trevor Griffiths in the Emerson was 17th, John Fider in the Brabham BT6 was 18th, Graham Barron in the Gemini Mark II was 19th, and rounding off the top 20 was that famous Simon Sid Fraser Lotus 20. Richard Ferris was 21st in the Donford. A Lola Mark II of Justin Fleming was 22nd. Anna Wilson was 23rd in the Lotus 27. Bob Birrell in the Lotus 20 was 24th. Andrew Hayden, Lotus 22, was 25th. 26th was Peter Fennicle in the Cooper. David Drews Osper was 27th. Duncan Rabagliati in the Alexis was 28th, Peter Edbrook in the Lotus was 29th, and Andrew Beaumont in that Lotus 22, 12 laps down, and I believe out of the race was 30th. 31st was Tim Child, classed as, and Robert Goodwin, I think didn't start. He will be classified in 32nd spot. So we knew that was going to be the property of Richard Bradley, so we just await word from Andrew Marriott, who is going to be down in the Parc Ferme, and at the podium we'll be able to go down and speak to Andrew now. I think we can go down to Andrew now.
Bradley's down here, and well, what can I say, professional execution that was. I mean, you did a brilliant job, but you're not happy to take the lap record.
No, to be honest, that was the aim going into it. I knew I had 2 laps pretty much before we were against the traffic, and unfortunately, with Sam and Andrew not being in the race, they were the main rivals really, and yeah, I did what I could, but the track wasn't perfect. There was still a bit of oil down at the top of McLean's and Coppice from the previous race, but I had a whale of a time. And to be honest, it's good practice for the modern stuff, because my next race is at the Red Bull Ring, and we're going to have like 46 cars or something, so it's going to be as busy as it was out there. So in terms of traffic preparation, it was great, and credit to all the drivers in Formula Junior, because they're proper back markers. They make your life really easy. It's very, very good.
Just reflecting on that record, you almost got, they say to me, I kept to the top limits, and maybe they didn't when they took the record.
Track limits are a difficult issue, but for me, to be honest, when I did my racing in America, my favourite circuit was Mosport Park, because there's no track limits there. There's a concrete wall and that's it.
Well, congratulations, and we look forward to you at the Red Bull Ring. Have a great race there.
Thank you.
Great talking to you. Let's go over to Richard Wilson here, who finished in second place. I said to you before the start, we'd like to see you here. Richard, you're right there. Excellent drive in the excellent Silvio Mosa car. We were telling the story on the commentary about this particular machine, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic race. I really had a good scrap with Adrian. I think Richard was in a class of his own, obviously, but we had a lovely race, and it was so nice to have it in the sunshine and the blue skies. We had a couple of minor spots around and thought, oh, is it coming? But it didn't come, and we had a great race.
So, well done to Richard.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to head over to the blue car 122. So chuffed with that. Duncan Rabagliati is down here, the architect of all this Formula Junior success. But let's grab hold of Adrian Russell here. There's so many people here. Adrian, we haven't talked before. Nice to be on the podium.
It's lovely, yeah. Always nice, especially here. Of course, a historic meeting.
And what's the history of this particular machine, this Lotus 22?
This car was rescued by a guy called John Arnold in the 80s, had been hill climbing for several years. He kept it with a view to rebuilding it, restoring it, putting it back on track, but never did, and sadly died. I bought it about 5 years ago, and it's taken me 2 or 3 years to get it to sort of performing well.
So is this your best result in the car?
No, I have won races, but not against this sort of formidable these guys. Obviously, Bradley's
he's a pro driver, obviously, it's a different matter. And we should just mention that there's a special award for the U2, and I don't know where Ray Malik has gone, but let's just have a quick word with Duncan Rabagliati here. As I said, very much the architect of the success of Formula Junior. Duncan, you had a happy little race in your
Yeah, I kept off David Drew for a few laps, and then I chased him perpetually, and in between the sort of being lapped, we sort of moved a little closer and then a bit further away, but it was all good and nice to have someone in one's sights. I did lap the last man anyway.
Oh, well, that's pretty good, but I mean, your big thing is you took Formula Junior from really, it was just a load of cars standing by in garages doing nothing, and you made it into this fantastic race series.
Yeah, well, it was just running with Formula Fords, and where was it going to go? And I put my hand up and said, follow me, and luckily they all did, and here we are. It's an amazing weekend, and we've got so much variety of cars and more coming out, and there's an incredible book by Sandro Silva coming out shortly about Italian Formula Juniors. It's all really on a ride, and we're loving it all.
Well, excellent. Well done, Duncan. He deserves a knighthood for all this, you know. So down here, happy faces on the victory area, and I'll go back to the commentary.